Miami is preparing for Donald Trump's court appearance tomorrow. The former president is facing a 37-count federal indictment over the classified documents found at his Florida home after he left the White House. Authorities are monitoring online threats and potential gatherings of far-right extremists in Miami ahead of the hearing. The documents investigation is one of several involving Trump. Georgia is probably going to be the next flashpoint. Fox News has demanded that Tucker Carlson stop posting videos to Twitter, escalating the dispute between the network and its former star host over how and if he can continue to speak publicly since his primetime show was canceled in late April. In a letter sent to Mr. Carlson, from Fox lawyers, the network accused him of violating the terms of his contract, which runs until early 2025 and limits his ability to appear in media other than Fox. JP Morgan Chase has reached a settlement with sexual abuse victims of disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. The tentative settlement would resolve allegations made in a lawsuit filed last year in a Manhattan federal court, where victims accused the bank of enabling the sex trafficking operation by allowing for massive withdrawals of cash over a 15-year period, including after Epstein's sex crimes were widely known. New research at the University of Massachusetts Medical School suggests that the environmental wounds inflicted by one generation may be transmitted to the next. The researchers found that collective intergenerational trauma and racial trauma reaches far beyond individuals and families and is a shared experience among a particular group, such as descendants of slaves, or the 120,000 Japanese Americans and Japanese nationals who were detained in incarceration camps during World War II. North Carolina GOP delegates voted to censure Senator Thom Tillis, who has worked on several key pieces of bipartisan legislation involving gun control and same-sex marriage. Tillis's Republican colleagues made the decision Saturday during a closed-door vote at their annual convention in Greensboro, North Carolina, which was attended by several of the party's prominent presidential candidates, including former President Donald Trump, former Vice President Mike Pence, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, although the move does not remove Tillis from office, it is a formal statement of disapproval. Tillis, who served for 4 years as Speaker of the North Carolina House before heading to Congress in 2015, says he will continue to serve the state of North Carolina. Dianne Feinstein, senator from California, has been urged by her colleagues to retire. Unlike past Democrats, some are asking what has changed. From the California senator to President Biden, Democrats are confronting more forceful calls for generational change than they did just 15 years ago. And last Tuesday, it was the first time out LGBTQ candidates were on the ballot in all 50 states, as well as D.C., Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. But their unprecedented success comes at a time when LGBTQ rights are at risk across the country. According to the Victory Fund, an LGBTQ political PAC that tracked queer and trans candidates across the country, out of 714 LGBT candidates who appeared on Tuesday's ballots, 436 won their races, with the possibility of even more gains in the coming days. Well, the Tony Awards went on despite the writer's strike, and history was made Sunday night when Alex Newell and J. Harrison Ghee became the first non-binary people to win Tonys for acting as the Broadway community forged ahead on Sunday night. Well, you're listening to Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. This is the second hour of the Areva Martin in Real Time show. And in this hour, we go behind the headlines. We go deep on those stories and that news that everyone is talking about. And unless you've been living under a rock, that story happens to be the second indictment of the twice impeached former President Donald J. Trump. In this hour, I'm going to break down the federal indictment, what we can all expect to happen tomorrow in that federal court in Miami when Donald Trump makes his first appearance. We're also going to talk about the significance of this indictment and what it means for our national security. Lots of folks are talking about the legal implications, but also talk about what Donald Trump did and how it may impact all of our safety. When we come forward, I'm going to be talking with a criminal defense attorney and expert. She's a professor of law at Western New England University School of Law. That's Professor Jennifer Taub, and national security expert and VP at the Center for American Progress, Alan Yu, is here to help us understand the security implications of the federal indictment against Donald J. Trump when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black. At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation in scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
The political world's eyes and the entire nation will turn to the federal courthouse in Miami on Tuesday when former President Donald J. Trump is expected to surrender for his first appearance on charges that he illegally retained national security documents after leaving office, and that he obstructed efforts to retrieve them and made false statements to federal law enforcement agents. The extraordinary event will be the former president's second courtroom appearance as a criminal defendant after his arraignment in April in a New York courthouse on state charges that he falsified business records in connection with a hush money payment to a porn star just before the 2016 election. So what's in this 37-count federal indictment against Donald Trump? And what are some of the national security implications? Everyone is talking about this story. So in hour two of Areva Martin in Real Time, So are we. And I'm joined in this hour by Professor of Law at Western New England University School of Law, Professor Jennifer Taub, and national security expert and vice president at the Center for American Progress, Alan Yu. Now, Alan once held a top security clearance when he worked for the U.S. government. Welcome so much, and thank you for joining me, Jennifer and Alan. Jennifer, I want to start with you. This indictment is head-scratching, is jaw-dropping, it's salacious. I don't even know where to start. We knew that if Jack Smith did indict Donald Trump, we would learn about the facts surrounding how he kept and maintained these national security documents that were removed from the White House. But I did not expect to see photographs. I didn't expect to see or to be able to read about notes, copious notes taken by his own attorney, and just some of the details in this indictment. I just want to first get your reaction when you first read the indictment. What were your first thoughts?
Thanks so much for having me. And I think I had very similar reaction to you. I guess I always make this comment that I'm half lawyer, half human, right? So I read it on both levels. As an attorney who teaches white collar crime at a law school, and I've written quite a bit about it, I'm looking at the document first to see if the actual laws, the offenses that are identified are the ones that I expected, and if there was anything new. And in that regard, there wasn't much new there. It was pretty much tracking what that search warrant said. But what was utterly shocking to me is that of the 37 counts that included Donald Trump, 31 of them were espionage related. Espionage was not a sideshow here. The fact that you use the word keeping and maintaining in the manner he was doing it. The fact that he was keeping and refusing to hand over documents that could create tremendous national security risk, and that they provided 31 instances of it, and they identified the sort of generally speaking what these documents entailed. It was jaw-dropping to see this confirmed. Almost all of those documents related to foreign governments, national security, war preparedness or defense preparedness or nuclear secrets, as well as ours. And there were just two separate ones that dealt with us in our nuclear weapons capabilities and availability. I mean, this is the kind of stuff you should not have had. Now, as a human, I reacted in the same way, which is, wow, photographs, how can I examine these? And over the last few days, you may have noticed people looking more closely at the photographs. I had always noticed the documents in the shower behind the curtain because it was referenced that there were some in the shower and some in the bathroom. But what I had not noticed until someone pointed it out to me was one of the photographs of storage rooms where there were boxes upon boxes of classified documents. It doesn't even matter if they're classified for these purposes, but you may have seen this or heard about it too. There was a photocopy machine next to them.
Wow.
That raises a whole bunch of other unspoken issues. So, I will tell you, and then one last thing I'll say that I noticed that was even unusual in this charging document is in the very back of it, they list the potential the maximum fines and the maximum number of years they could be sentenced to, which would never be that because of the way sentencing guidelines work. But I felt like it was a signal to Walt Nauta and a signal to any other cooperator that even if no one's going to put a former president behind bars, even if he gets house arrest, if he is convicted, someone like Walt, that's not going to be an issue. And he is facing, in theory, decades of potential sentences, potential years behind bars. And I think other people will look at this, maybe take it seriously and step up their cooperation.
Well, Jennifer, I missed the photocopy machine. I think I was stuck on the boxes next to the toilet. And the fact that they were in a bathroom, and a lot of folks are making fun on social media about the tacky chandelier in the bathroom, obviously not relevant, but I think I was so shocked just to see, I'm thinking here you have this big club, and Mar-a-Lago is a social club. It's massive. why the bathroom? Was there anything in this indictment, this 49-page indictment, Jennifer? And I know paragraph 54, I always tell people, if you don't want to read anything else of the 49 pages, go to paragraph 54, because it talks about the way that Trump was trying to engage his lawyer and help, get his lawyer, Evan Cochran, we think is the lawyer one identified in this indictment, to engage in this criminal conduct with him. But is there anything from your reading and close analysis that sheds light on why the bathroom of all places, given that there had to be storage facilities on this property?
Well, let me say two things. One, absolutely. Paragraph 54, that's the most shocking thing here, that he literally was trying to play that game that his other lawyer, Michael Cohen, said he would play, which he wouldn't directly tell you destroy these documents, make them go away, but he hinted that. He made gestures like, pluck these out of the red weld, or what if they just disappeared, and things like that. That's his way of saying, will you rid me of this meddlesome priest? Why he was keeping them there might have been because it was an out-of-the-way space. I don't think he was planning to flush things, though he has been known to do that. I think this was just some out-of-the-way, it wasn't the bathroom with the golden toilet. It wasn't some special place. Look, they were on a stage at one point. I mean, what you look in this indictment, as you see, even before a subpoena was issued, in May of 2022, where he was told he had to hand over more documents than the ones he'd already given, supposedly voluntarily, after a year of leaving office to the, to the National Archives. Before that, they were just moving these things around because maybe he had guests here, and he's just a sloppy, confused, chaotic person. He's like this new, the Peanuts cartoon, Pigpen, where he walks around and there's this cloud of dust behind him. That's Donald Trump. He's Mr. Chaos. But after they actually got the subpoena, now it was stepped up, and all of a sudden Walt and some other unnamed employees were now kind of moving the boxes into one main area and back and forth between the residence and one particular storage room, it seems like, because Donald Trump was supervising review of them to decide what he planned to leave for his lawyers to find and what he wanted to keep in his own office. And of course, later we have found out what those things were that he was setting aside. But, the answer to your question is in half, I don't know, but my best guess is he's just completely chaotic and disorganized.
Yeah, Alan, give us some sense of the gravity of the breach with respect to these documents. Donald Trump, go back to 2016, he's running for president. Hillary Clinton and the missing emails, lock her up. I mean, he talked incessantly about her poor handling of emails and how if he was in the White House, he was going to have strict policies around classified documents and the protection of those documents and the protection of national secrets. So how ironic is it, that we fast forward and the very thing that he was obsessed with and trying to blame Hillary Clinton for, he now has been charged himself with the mishandling and the sloppy handling, as Jennifer points out, of these documents. So give us some sense of how big of a breach it is for someone to have national security documents in a bathroom, on a stage, in their bedroom, in their desk drawer, at their social club. I mean, these documents were everywhere throughout this social club.
Great question, Areva. Thanks for inviting me. I will tell you, first of all, thank you, Jennifer, for your assessment of things. I, like many people around the country and around the world, are just finding this to be just an incredible car wreck of a situation, just watching it, and really appreciated your assessment. Hey, Areva, to your question on the seriousness of these breaches, this is just incredible. I think, as you mentioned, I used to be in the U.S. government. I was a pretty senior official, both at the State Department and at the Energy Department, where we handled the nuclear weapons programs and had very high security clearances at both agencies. I will tell you, I've spoke over the last couple of days, as well as over the last several months. I've been speaking with a number of my friends, both in the government as well as ones who have left. And we're just all just aghast at what has been happening. I mean, if you look at some of the documents that they describe in the indictment, information on nuclear weapons programs and how good they are, and also where we fall short. Same types of information on programs of foreign countries, kind of how our capabilities, military capabilities against against foreign countries, what foreign countries are thinking about and their capabilities in confronting us. I mean, this is at the core our protecting our national interest, protecting the safety of everybody. I mean, we're talking about the safety of people from Maine to California, Hawaii, Alaska. This is not a Washington thing. This is these are threats to our, basically our humanity. And so when we grew up in the government, it was drilled into our heads how critically important it was to be so secure and safe in safeguarding these materials. I mean, it was drilled into us so much that it was clear to us if we slipped up even in the smallest part, we could lose our job, we could go to jail. And so whenever we were handling a single document, it was just, we were obsessive about making sure that we put it away, put it in a safe, especially in those very highly classified documents that they talk about in the indictment. You could only read that paper within what they called a special compartment and information facility, a SCIF, and you could not take that document out of the room. So the fact that it was not only outside of a SCIF, but it was in a box, in a toilet, near a toilet, or on a stage, is just mind-blowing.
So, Alan, let me stop you right there, Alan, because it begs the question as to how did Donald Trump get these, I think it's, at one number I've heard, 80 or so boxes, if not more, out of the White House when he left? And particularly, how did these documents that you said are typically maintained or only viewed in these special compartment information facilities, the SCIF, how could he even get access to them to take them to Mar-a-Lago? So I think what happened is, and I'll tell you, I guess I've read this as probably others, is he had an imperious nature, right? And so he could, if he decided that he wanted to take something, it was very difficult for people to say no. And so if these allegations are proven in the court of law, this is a really serious violation of the Espionage Act, as well as a threat to our national security. So, Jennifer, one of the things that some of the lawyers and pundits who've been defending Trump, they like to make a big deal over this, the fact that Trump as president had the ability, the authority to declassify documents. And we've heard him say he could just think it in his mind and a document would be declassified. Now, we know there's some tapes. He's on the tape saying that he couldn't declassify certain documents. But help us understand legally the significance, if any, of whether Trump had legitimately declassified any of these documents. Does that in any way aid him in a defense?
Not exactly. And in just a minor way, it might have. And just to put a fine point on this, none of the offenses identified here, from the espionage to the obstruction to the document hiding or destruction to lying to the FBI, none of them speak to at all the classification level of a document. The Espionage Act itself, which would be the only one that kind of deals with the specific type of document, deals with whether disclosing or keeping it would cause harm to the national security interests of the United States. Okay, so that's one thing. The second part, the only reason why it might have helped him is because it goes to his intent. All of these statutes require a certain level of criminal intent, a kind of corrupt motive or mind. And to the extent that now that we know that he knew he had not declassified the documents, that must mean that he knew these were that he was acting with a guilty mind. That's the only reason why it's important. Had he actually believed he declassified them, would not have actually, though, necessarily impacted what the legal standards are, but it could have affected a jury. You know, juries don't always follow the law. And certainly he is playing to the court of public opinion. But the bottom line is he knew he didn't declassify them and he lied about it. And it actually is not relevant to any of the charges.
Well, I guess, you know, if you follow that line of reasoning, if he really thought he had declassified them by just thinking that process, and he took them with him to his social club and he returned them, then, you know, no harm, no foul. He didn't really think that they were documents that he couldn't have in his possession. They asked for them back. He returned them. I think the thing we have to stay focused on in this case is the fact that he spent months defying requests from the government to return the documents. And this is a crime of his own making, which I guess most crimes are, but he had every opportunity to give the documents back. And it is the hiding, it is the subterfuge, it is the lying that
and defying a subpoena. There was also a subpoena too. So that
absolutely.
Is yeah.
It was those acts which constitute obstruction of justice, and those are the acts which which is why Trump finds himself in the legal jeopardy that he is in. When we come forward, I want to talk about how the GOP tries to compare this to documents found at Biden's residence and Pence's residence, and talk some more about what those national security risks are as a result of Donald Trump's actions. Right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search, but we are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got on me.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
Bounce is back.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search, but we are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got.
And I'm joined in this hour by Jennifer Taub. She's a law professor at the Western New England University School of Law, and joined by Alan Yu. He's a national security expert and VP at the Center for American Progress. So, Jennifer, tomorrow, big day in Florida, Miami courtroom. Donald Trump is supposed to make his first appearance to enter a plea for this 37-count federal indictment. There's some reports out that he's having a difficult time finding a lawyer in Florida who is a member of the Florida federal bar, and he can't make that appearance unless he has someone that is licensed to practice and admitted to that federal bar in Florida. I don't know if you've seen any recent updates, if he's been able to find that attorney. I suspect that he will, but walk us through what's likely to happen in court tomorrow.
Well, assuming he finds an attorney, which, he is running through almost any, attorney he has ever thought of before. In part, they seem to quit, maybe because he lies to them, or maybe because he doesn't pay their bills, or some combination thereof. It's not that difficult to get waived into to the bar, but I think the bigger problem is anyone wanting to represent him at this point. What we're going to see is probably something similar to what we saw last time he was indicted in New York in state court, which means a lot of, unless they allow cameras in the courtroom, which I'm doubting, what will happen is maybe we'll catch a glimpse of him in the hallways or outside of the building. But inside of the courtroom, the expectation is a magistrate will be there. It will not be the judge to whom he is assigned, who is actually not in Miami. She picked up the case out of the sort of lottery system, but the grand jury was in Miami because that apparently was where they had the best kind of security for the grand jury. So he'll be arraigned before. Well, let me just say he'll get to the court building, and he's going to have to surrender. That's a really powerful word, surrender, right? He's going to have to surrender. I don't think they're going to cuff him. They may or not take his digital fingerprints, but he will be in the custody of the federal government at that point. He'll be in the custody of the criminal justice system, and he will not be free to leave.
Well, you mentioned the magistrate judge, and it's not Eileen Cannon. Eileen Cannon is that judge who was appointed by Trump, who was on the civil part of this case, this documents case, and who made some rulings that were very favorable to Donald Trump, but also obviously not consistent with the law, as evidenced by being rebuked by and reversed on her decisions by the very conservative 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. How concerned are you if Eileen Cannon remains on the criminal part of this case that she might try to make some rulings that would favor Trump, even going as far as dismissing the indictment or dismissing some of the key pieces of evidence, like the evidence involving Donald Trump's attorney, evidence that would typically be prohibited from being introduced because it would be protected by the attorney-client privilege? And we're going to talk about how Jack Smith, the special counsel, was able to pierce that privilege. But do you have any concerns about Cannon being the judge in this case?
I do have concerns, but I'm hoping that she recuses herself. My biggest concerns are not that she would be overtly partisan, but that she would not be knowledgeable of the law, or she would, as you're noting, on things when it requires discretion from a judge, tending to lean toward favoring him, since we saw her do that before. This is a very strong case based on the allegations in the indictment, but allegations, are just the beginning of the story. And if evidence cannot get in front of a jury, right, then the jury won't see it. Also, there's the process of voir dire, which is questioning potential jurors and deciding who can stay on and who cannot make it to the actual final jury. Judges have a lot of control over a lot, and a lot of what they do is not necessarily appealable. And so, all kinds of evidentiary rulings, all kinds of, even the most subtle things. I years ago, I was a sort of summer clerk in a courthouse outside of Detroit. And, the judges, if they speak in a short tone or a sharp tone to one of the attorneys, the jury picks up on that. And now they can go overboard, but a judge can send a signal that they don't approve, and it can really impact a trial. All of those things concern me. However, maybe the fact that she was rebuked before means that she's going to be a professional in this instance and follow the law. But this is, we should keep in mind that he's going into the same criminal justice system that all the rest of us have to, with all of its flaws. And if we see those, we can only imagine, and I think we all know how, ordinary people get treated and can be chewed up or protected in that system. And this is going to be no different than any other situation.
Well, we do know there's a dual justice system. And if you are affluent and happen to be white, particularly white male, you stand a chance of being a part of a very different criminal justice system than people of color, and particularly poor people of color face. And we do have, I equally like you, have concerns about this judge and what she might try to do to favor Donald Trump, given her behavior, her demonstrated partisanship that was, reversed not once, but twice by the 11th Circuit. So hopefully she did learn her lesson. Alan, national security issues abound in this case. How are they going to even put on evidence about these documents without revealing some of the national securities that are supposed to be protected? I worry about that as well. You talked about nuclear programs that the U.S. is involved in and other military secrets related to other countries. How can those documents even be seen by a judge and jury who presumably don't have the kind of security clearance that would allow them otherwise to see these documents?
Yeah, Areva, it's a really difficult question. There are procedures in which courts can work, with the intelligence community, et cetera, to try to figure out how to narrow the information that's passed on so that juries can get a sense for the gravity without revealing the sources and methods. But it's a very tricky thing, and there's some practice of doing that in courts in the Washington area. A lot of these national security type cases are handled there. And so to a certain extent, the judges and, court systems know how to have at least a little bit of practice with that. Not so much in Florida. So I think that it really bears watching to see how this plays out. I think it plays into this question of, is this going to slow down the process, which then obviously has, broader implications for how the country grapples with this political and legal issue.
Jennifer, we've been hearing a lot about the rocket docket and the speed at which cases move through these Florida courts. Presumably, Trump may have one idea about when it would be best to be on trial. The prosecution, I imagine, has their own thinking about when this trial should take place. But what's your best estimate as to, when this case may actually be before a jury? We may hear opening statements.
Wow. Normally I could probably make a decent guess, but we haven't even had the arraignment, so I'm not sure. Let's just to put it in context, the earliest we're going to see, according to what the judges said in the New York case, that New York trial move forward is early 2024. At some point, you're not going to be able to have the trial if we're actually in the fall of 2024. So either this trial is going to happen spring and summer of 2024, or it's not going to happen until after the election. It may well be that the two expected January 5th related cases out of Fulton County, Georgia, and then out of D.C. at the Department of Justice that those may happen first.
Yeah, that would really be a travesty of justice, I think, to have an election and not have had the trial so that the American people would have an opportunity to learn about all of the evidence and to see if there is a conviction of Donald Trump. I think it would be horrible for him to be able to continue to run, which he obviously is allowed to do under the Constitution. But to have this trial pending and for him to continue to, use the kind of rhetoric and the attacks that we've seen against the Justice Department and the FBI. And, we'll talk about this, Alan. What if there is a trial before or after and he's actually convicted? The Constitution did not anticipate a Donald Trump in the White House and now running again to go back to the White House. When we come forward, I want to talk about the implications of a convicted Donald Trump, what that means for national security. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm young, gifted, and black.
KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
Bounce is back.
Let's off the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head. Yeah.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search. We are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and
I am back and I am talking with Jennifer Taub. She is a law professor and she's an expert on the issues contained in Donald Trump's indictment. And Alan Yu, he's a national security expert. And yes, Jennifer, I am also a Harvard Law School graduate. I actually met my husband there. He's also a Harvard Law School graduate. So Jennifer is HLS graduate as well. So I'm so excited to have you on the show. I love when I have my fellow HLS graduates join me because I know you are one of the brightest lawyers in the country. So big shout out to Harvard Law School. So Alan, if Donald Trump is convicted before or after the election, and God forbid he has won the 2024 presidential election, what happens?
Boy, it's an interesting question. Let me talk about it in the national security context, right? I mean, part of our defending our national security is not just what we do as a country, but how we work with our allies, right? And how we, and then also, as we've been discussing today, how we gather information and how we lean on, our various sources. If these allegations are proven to be true, and if in fact, Donald Trump is convicted of these violations, and then he's elected, just imagine how it is that we contemplate defending our country, and how it is that how members of our government consider how to operate and how to consider the kinds of information sharing within our government, but also the kinds of information sharing that we do with allies that we depend on to help us defend ourselves. It's a real question. I don't know if people have thought this through, but there will be a lot of reckoning, I think, by informants, foreign informants that we've counted on to share secrets with us as individuals, as well as countries and allies who are partners. I don't know the answer, but I don't think it's going to be good.
Jennifer, can you imagine a convicted, elected to president Donald Trump? And where would he serve his time? Would he be on arrest, house arrest in the White? I mean, it's not even conceivable. You can't do the job of the president if you are on house arrest.
Well, I hate that I have to walk down this path with you, Areva, but you invited it. And I suppose he would come in and pardon himself and let that get fought out at the Supreme Court. The bigger problem would be any conviction or, house arrest or incarceration out of Georgia or New York. Right now, the way Georgia works is the governor doesn't do pardons there. It's like a pardon board, and there's this rule that you have to have served a certain amount of your sentence. But those laws can be changed. Right. So my biggest concern, and I as a Jewish person, I don't turn to this lightly, but there is someone else in our history before my time, but not that much before, who went to prison before he rose to power in Germany. I don't even want to say his name, but we all know that he was, so that this is. I do think he might be likely the nominee, but I don't think he will be reelected, but it's too close for comfort. And, the damage to our country, though, has already been done. And we are going to be digging ourselves out of this, or said differently, I don't know how we're going to cool off the current civil war that we are going through right now. And, very painful period where we are resurrecting some of the most awful, most awful modalities and kind of values. And that was done through Donald Trump. And now his utter defiance of the rule of law just makes things exponentially worse. So, my hope is that he makes a determination on his own not to run, or nature takes his course in some way and he decides he's too tired or not well enough.
Yeah, my money is on nature, not on Donald Trump making any decision that does not, favor him. The hubris of this guy is just unimaginable, unthinkable. Let me ask you this, Jennifer, before we run out of time. There are lots of GOP pundits and leaders that like to point to the documents found at Joe Biden's house, at his office, at Mike Pence's home, and say that this is the unfair targeting of Donald Trump. And if you're going to arrest Donald Trump, you have to arrest Mike Pence and Joe Biden. And they even go back to Clinton. Help us understand why this case is so different.
So, Areva, these kinds of cases would make great law school hypotheticals, right? Because the facts seem somewhat similar, but we can use them to distinguish the points of law here. And it's something the point you had made earlier before, I think, the first break, which is, look, if Donald Trump had taken home boxes of materials and sort of chaotically had thrown different things in them, and when the National Archives said, hey, can you send this stuff back? And he did, and they found out there was highly classified information and they asked for more. He shouldn't have stonewalled them. He should have said, okay, why don't you help me figure out what's here? He should have hired his lawyers to go through every single box, actually lawyers who had the appropriate security clearances, right? At the highest levels, gone through it, gotten the materials and given them back. That's what happened with Joe Biden. That's what's happening with Mike Pence. And in fact, the special counsel was appointed to investigate what was going on with Joe Biden. People are not perfect, and they shouldn't be this sloppy. And there are patterns of behavior that are not good. I'm not going to say what Hillary Clinton did was a good idea, but it was not criminal, and she was fully investigated. The difference is Donald Trump is absolutely and defiantly obstructing justice. And, that seems clear. He's lying to the FBI. And he said repeatedly and publicly. These are my documents and I can do whatever I want with them. And if it's true that he was waving them around to people without clearances, I mean, I don't know what defense the dude has at this point. It's entirely different.
Yeah, Alan, the indictment doesn't speak to motive. We still don't know the exact reason that Donald Trump likes to keep, documents and trophies and things of that nature. Do you have any, example of anyone that has done anything similar to this? Obviously not on this scale, obviously not involving a former president, but there is precedent for people being prosecuted for the retention, for the removal of these kinds of classified documents. Can you give us a recent example of that?
Yeah, sure. So there are obviously the Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden examples in which they disclosed information. Again, they had their motives, but as you recall, the government sought pretty strong prosecutions against both. There was no hesitating on that. And so if you look at those cases and you look at the case that the situation that's in front of us, there's no question that if these allegations are proven correct in a court of law, that these are serious violations of law and of the security of our country.
Well, we are out of time. Thank you so much, Jennifer Taub, a professor at the New England University School of Law, and Alan Yu is at the Center for American Progress. Your insights were invaluable. I think everyone has a better understanding of what to look for tomorrow and what's up and coming with respect to the second indictment of the former president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Next voice that you hear will be Robin Ayers and the Ayers Report and the Rye Report right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
I'm young, gifted, and black.
At KBLA Talk 1580,